Hello. We're back again talking about baseball with Sam and Joe. So, what's the big news, Sam?
Pollock is the main thing at the moment, and then a bit of Realmuto later probably, and obviously Sonny Gray after Brian Cashman somehow got actual prospects for a guy that he quite openly said was rubbish.
Yeah. So, AJ Pollock. That's the big recent one, isn't it?
Yeah, that was from Thursday, was it? Or, yeah, Thursday or Wednesday or sometime. Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday. Okay. So he's signed a, was it 4 year, 5 year contract?
It's quite complicated because the Dodgers are messing around with the CBA a little bit. So I think this is right. It's 4 years at 15 million guaranteed, um, with an option, a player option for the fifth year, which would only be 10 million, I think, or maybe 12 million. But Pollock can also opt out after three if he thinks he's good enough when he will be
Which,
34 to get a big contract, which
yeah.
he won't.
No, I mean that's. I don't think that's going to be taken. To be honest, I mean, I'd be very surprised if he's good at that point. Being a centre fielder who is already 31.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with that. And I mean, the opt-outs seem almost pointless. I mean, the final option counts against the AAV for the Dodgers trying to stay under the luxury tax. So it pulls it down a bit, but they're going to end up paying it anyway. So he will get paid a little bit less, but he will also be very old then. And I would
Yeah,
imagine a left fielder who
and and
no one
frankly,
knows
they've
who's going to be.
already overpaid. Like he's already got the big overpaid contract like this year.
Yeah. So it's a strange deal, to be honest. I didn't think this is what they were going to be doing, particularly after the Puig and Kemp. Was it Wood? Wood got sent as well in that deal, didn't he?
Yeah,
So they got rid of those guys that basically helped them clear some money. They got a couple of prospects as well. Now they've got an everyday centre fielder who is good defensively, not great.
yeah,
6 outs above average last season, which was the same as like good. I think it was Adam Duvall got six but in a smaller sample size. So like
yeah.
guys that are good
In
defensively, but
left field,
he's
it's
he's not
different in centre
Lorenzo
field
Kane.
though. But yeah, he's. I don't mind him like that was signing him as much as the length of it. To be honest, is like after the players they've lost this off season, their team had only got worse, and they really needed to do something in free agency. I think they need to do something so they at least were going to be as good as last year. Because until they'd signed Pollock, their roster was only worse. There was no way it was a better roster than
They well, they've got
the year
Seager.
before.
They've got Seager back, which
Yeah,
is quite big.
I suppose, but I mean, for a couple of years he might still be a useful centre fielder. But then again, he is also basically a league average hitter. Been pretty much a league average hitter for his whole career, apart from like 2 years, about 5 years ago.
Yep, it's hard to like it, really. I mean, the like you say, the length is the main problem with it, and the reason that's a bigger issue for me is I find it hard to believe you couldn't have got him for a shorter deal given the state of the market. The demand clearly isn't that big for someone like Pollock, or it definitely shouldn't be. There are only like a certain number of teams who could maybe want him.
I
Um,
know.
I just they played Chris Taylor, Bellinger, and Hernandez in center, I think, most last year. So I guess this
Yeah,
does give
that's
them another everyday player,
but
which
that's
is
the
kind of
other
good.
thing though. Like you say, with him being a centre fielder, all those guys I think are younger than him, aren't they?
Yeah,
And I mean, even though Bellinger is known as a first baseman, I think he's a pretty good centre fielder, relatively. So already, I don't know if Pollock's even going to be better defensively than those guys. It's like
not
already at this point, it might make sense for him to be playing left field rather than centre behind in front of those guys.
yeah, and you want more offense if he's playing left field.
If he's playing left field, he is not a good baseball player, basically. He's
No.
just like an average player.
Yeah, and you just, I think particularly getting someone who has to be locked into a position. Um, I suppose this is different when you got down the middle. Like Corey Seager's always going to be playing short, for instance. But the Dodgers, a lot of their success has been built on like pretty much positionless baseball.
Yeah,
They've just thrown people around. Like those three players I just
like
mentioned are the
like
example of
total
that.
football,
Yeah,
but in
yeah,
baseball.
pretty much. And it's just like they've got a lot of good guys who are athletic and they play them pretty much wherever they want. And they're decent wherever they put them.
Yeah, I think the only argument I could see for signing Pollock for any team is that he is, for a centre fielder that's as good defensively as he is a pretty good hitter. But that's for a centre fielder. If you move him to any other position, then he's suddenly not a good hitter. So I think the only logic for signing him is if he's going to be your everyday centre fielder, then he's like, yeah, it's a pretty good player for an everyday centre fielder, but not spectacular. Because I think he's basically living off this 2014 and 2015 season when he was actually good. But that was a
Yeah,
long time ago, and he's had a lot of injuries since then.
yeah, that is. Well, there's the durability thing we haven't even mentioned that he like some of them are
Yeah,
through I think a bit of bad luck as well where he's picked up injuries, but like some of it are genuine physical concerns of a guy that's turned 31. It just all that as a Giants fan, all I can see through this is the contracts that the Giants gave to Denard Span and Angel Pagan, who were not as good as Pollock at their best, but
yeah.
contracts to guy center fielders who are getting old.
I think that's the most common thing when someone gives out a bad contract. A lot of the time, it's centre fielders. Because
Yeah,
centre fielder, you think, oh, he's a good player, but he's only a good player because he's a centre fielder, and soon they're not going to be able to play centre field anymore.
yeah.
And suddenly they're a below average player.
So although I did make a lot, well, not the health concerns, I did have similar skepticism about Lorenzo Cain, who is now 32, and he had a 124 weighted runs created plus last year, but that was pretty strong for him. I mean, in 2017 and 2016 it was 115 and 999 and 99 rather. So he's another case of where it's like in
Yeah,
2 years when they're still paying him a lot of money, he's going to be
yeah. Thing with that, yeah, like you say, is even though he's had one good year, is the sort of contract that well, for a team like the Brewers as well, could sort of ruin them
yeah.
in a few years if he's suddenly doesn't have any value anymore as a
But then
player.
I guess at least with the Brewers, they did get within a game of the World Series, and they are clearly in like ultra win now stuff. So it makes a little more
Yeah,
sense in that way. I mean, the Dodgers is bizarre because the trade they made with the Reds earlier in the off season was very much a like extend our window job. And if they're going to be committed to being under the luxury tax like medium term, it's not going to be long before that Pollock contract is part of the reason they can't stay under the luxury tax.
yeah. It's strange in that way, but also the fact is the Dodgers sort of makes it not as bad because I know they're saying they want to stand lux tax at the moment, but they if it comes to it and they want to get someone else, they'll just spend that extra money anyway. I think it'd be a
Yeah,
lot worse if it was a team like a small market team or a middle-sized market team or something, where that is actually going to impact their budget. Whereas the Dodgers, much like the Yankees, they just, you know, if they really want someone, they're not going to let the budget stop them.
yeah. It's just a question of how much they want them, which is why the Harper thing's interesting with them. Is you can't help but feel it must be that they aren't that desperate to have him, and definitely not for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They're definitely out of that now with the Pollock signing. I think, even though they play different positions, it seems like they're not going to be getting Harper. And yeah, I don't know. I get his demands are astronomical, and they're not really into it that much.
Yeah, it just seems like because they sorted a new deal with Kershaw this off season as well, didn't they? And that's the thing. If they do have some interest in being below the luxury tax at some point, once you put a contract like Harper's on, it's going to be tricky for quite a while. Like the Yankees are going to find in like 2 or 3 years, they're going to be paying Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Like they're going to be paying effectively two right fielders
Yeah,
like a combined 50 million. It's going to be difficult to be under luxury tax or even close to being under luxury tax.
well, and like Gleyber Torres and Severino, when they
Yeah,
come to arbitration and stuff, the payroll's
but
gonna
they reset
explode.
it last year though, didn't they? So that was what was
Yeah,
really impressive with them. Um, was you've got to take advantage of when you've got good young players because that's when they're cheap and that's when you can creep under luxury tax for 2 years, and then when they're all
yeah,
good, they're all going to be veterans at the same time. Like the last few years of Stanton's contract, and their payroll is going to be like $350 million. It's going to be ridiculous.
yeah, and that'll be another whatever it was last time, another like 10 years in a row over the luxury tax. It might
Yeah,
be more than
because
that, actually. It might have been like 20
yeah, and they're going to give
until
Aaron
this year.
Judge an extension for the rest of time or something.
Yeah,
But
but
the Harper market is quite interesting now because well, the Phillies still seem to think that they're the favourites. Um, but then there was that little wave of excitement when they went and saw him in Las Vegas and I don't know, sucked up to him for a while and said, "We love you, Bryce. Come here." They probably did some fake jersey retirement nonsense like they do. Um, and then there was all these rumors that he's going to sign in the next week, and then there's not been anything reported for like a whole
yeah,
week on Bryce Harper, which does make me wonder if he's that keen on the Phillies and the Phillies are willing to buy him a small country or something.
I
Um,
I think he's going back to the Nationals. That's my hunch.
I'd love that. I think it'd be fun, but I'm not sure they'll
I
do it.
reckon I reckon basically the Phillies have offered him the money, but he'd rather go back to the Nationals, and he wants them to match it. He's just sort of stalling.
It would be quite fun, I think, if he did did a little LeBron with the Nationals, treated them a little bit like the Cavaliers, and said, "I'm gonna come back, but I'm gonna have a 1 year contract with an opt out after every single season,
Yeah,
and just be like, you have to give me a competitive team,
yeah,
or you have to keep me happy, and then you take complete control." Because there's a lot of obsession in baseball with guaranteed money. You've still got control over how much money you earn then. And then he could opt out and we could do this whole soap opera again if he had another MVP year or something like that.
Well, that's become a thing actually that I think certain players are leaning towards. Is that a lot of the thing with people not getting paid is the long-term contracts. Well, like the
Yeah,
Pollock one, right? It's such an outlier. Is the money per year is still up there. It's just the people aren't getting long-term contracts. So if you want to earn the max amount of money in your career as a baseball player, some players have worked out that it's best to have lots of short deals, like even
and
like 1 year deals.
back yourself to be good. Definitely
Like
back
I think
yourself to be
Trevor
good.
Bauer said it publicly that when he hits free agency, he's only going to be taking 1 year deals.
Yeah, because I think I'll get better, he said, didn't
Yeah,
he? He said, I think I'm going to get better every year. And Josh Donaldson is for different reasons because of his injury problems. That's what he's done. He's getting like, I think it's $23 million this year.
yeah, and that's still a lot for how he's been the last few years.
Yeah, but
That's
if
a
he
lot
asked
per
for
year.
if he asked for 2 years, he wasn't getting 46 million, was he? He was probably getting like maybe
No,
30 million over 2 years. So okay, well he obviously good on him. He
yeah,
backs himself to go and stay healthy and be a monster at Atlanta, which I don't doubt he will be if he's healthy.
yeah,
It's quite an interesting change. I mean, there's obviously a lot of people would still just like randomly complaining that these players aren't getting inexplicable long contracts, but they don't deserve them because look at the long contracts that are handed out, not just the ones that have already happened, but I think about like this Pollock deal. It looks to me like a very ordinary contract, and it will do in a couple of years, I think.
yeah,
People don't when they do get handed out, the general response to them is